Hello, so I've got this Bulgarian mask on. I won't keep it on for very long because it's quite tight at the moment, and adjusting the straps is a bit of a pain due to the age of the mask. If anyone's interested, there's the little sort of leaflet that came with it, which is quite nice to actually get something like that. All right, good evening, everyone. At least the notification's gone out. That's good. So don't forget to like the stream. Tell you what, I'll just take this off now, because I need to definitely loosen the straps on it first before I try and wear this properly. Yeah, you can see where it's cut into my face from where... So yeah, it's like a half-face respirator. I suppose it's not really a gas mask, is it? It's actually more like a particulate respirator. And I imagine it's a copy of that Soviet PY-60M or whatever it's called, because it looks pretty similar to that. So how it works is basically it's just got very basic filters in there. And it came with some replacement filters, actually. And when I say filters, I mean literally kind of dust filter things. I was having a look at them to see if I could figure out if they had asbestos in or not, but they look kind of just like thin cotton stuff, to be honest. But I'll put them to a microscope at some point when I do a video on the actual mask properly. Yeah, I wear a watch daily. I don't actually have it on at the moment, weirdly. I think that's because I had a bath earlier and I took it off when I went to have a bath. But it's on my desk, hang on. There we go. And if you remember not a list later in the stream, ask it. But yeah, I'll end up doing obviously a video on this, but it's one of those ones where you adjust one bit and then you can pull the other bit through. But annoyingly, due to the age, you might be able to see there when the bits of straps snapped when I was adjusting it. So I'll definitely, when I next do the bit on it, sort of feed it through a bit more carefully. By saying that, loosening it is actually quite easy. There we go. Let's loosen the other bit ever so slightly. Just tightening it can be a bit of a pain in the ass because it obviously I used to play War Thunder. I haven't played it in years, but yeah, I used to play War Thunder. Right, anyway, let's pull that other bit through. Right, that's slightly looser now, that strap, so I'll try it again. So I want to get this bit around my neck first. So obviously it hangs down like that, like with the 3M style masks. And then if I pull this bit as tight as possible, so it's sort of ready to go up. That's not actually as bad now. It's a bit better. Yeah. It's just a case of, I think, getting this, exactly the right angle to be comfortable. I suppose once you set the strap up for it, you never need to adjust it again, saying that. Yeah, thanks, Rich. Don't forget to like the stream, everybody. But yeah, pretty basic mask. As I said, I'll do a video on it at some point. And again, I don't know how safe the filters are to breathe through, because that could very well be asbestos shooting in there. So what I'll end up doing is when I do the video on it, I'll get the microscope out and see what the particles look like. I've never been to Bulgaria. I'm sure it's a fine country and everything. I've got a couple of Bulgarian gas masks. I've obviously got that little respirator. I've got a Bulgarian PG-1, which is just at the very side of the frame there. And I've got Bulgarian PDE-1, which is like an M17 clone as well somewhere. That's cool. How much is that worth if you wanted to sell it, Mr. Ginge? I think the whole point of that, yes, was it literally, yes, it was designed to protect against fallout. See that Soviet poster behind me? Nearly all the masks on there are fallout protection. Obviously, things like the GP5 was basic NBC protection as well. But if you look at the bottom masks, they're literally the ones, that are designed to protect from inhaling fallout dust. Yeah, I've got quite a few knives. There's lots of videos on them. So yeah, it's not to protect against dust as in, this is a mask for people sanding and doing that sort of stuff. It was, when a nuke goes off, if it ground bursts, you get a lot of fallout. If you inhale fallout, you're dead. So, No, stilettos annoyingly are illegal in the UK. I think you can get like non-spring stiletto kind of variants of them, but like the actual flick kind of stilettos, you know, like where you press a button and they'd flick out, they're illegal sadly because of our weird knife laws. So yeah, you're right, depressed manatee, or manatee, sorry. So yeah, I've got a couple of really cool things coming in the post soon, or like couriers. So on a stream recently, somebody was asking me, had I bought or had I got one of those US civil defense Geiger counters? And I said no, because at that point when they asked, I'd never seen one on UK eBay for a reasonable price. And when I bid on one before, you know, it went over 50 quid for the most basic model and I didn't want to pay anymore. So, yeah. So then, yeah, what I was going to say, I think the night after somebody asked that on the stream, I saw one listed. And it was about £110 for the Geiger counter and all the accessories. So I ended up buying it. It was one of those ones where it was like a lower starting bid, but I didn't want to bid in case that drove the price up. And then today, when somebody was asking me about, yeah, delete your comment, so I didn't read it out. I'll actually delete it for you. There you go, but don't mention stuff like that again. Yeah, and then somebody asked me on another stream about not stream. Yeah, it's in another stream. Somebody asked me about like a certain model of German Geiger counter. Like, could I look it up and see if it was any good? So I looked it up and said, oh yeah, it looks pretty good. And then there was one listed on eBay, you know, like an auction ending this weekend. So I said, right, I'll keep an eye on that. And then, yeah, I ended up bidding and it went quite high, but I ended up winning a bid on that. So I got that being delivered now as well. I'm really interested in that Geiger counter. It looks really well made. But I suppose if it's West German, it would be. But it'd be quite interesting to compare it and contrast it with the other Geiger counters. Yeah, that sounds about typical with Google stuff. I've got, if you search my channel, Depressed Manatee, there's a video on the Japanese mask I have, but it's in very poor condition, literally falling apart sort of condition. So I couldn't test it even if I wanted to, and I wouldn't because of the age of the filter and everything and what's probably in it. But yeah, so I do have a Japanese gas mask, Japanese World War II gas mask, but it might be a Type 99, I think somebody said. Because I thought it was a Type 95, but somebody else said it's a Type 99 because if you look at certain bits on it, it's like the simplified bits they did for the later Type 99. But yeah, that's the only Japanese mask I have. Again, if like the Japanese M17 clones or like the modern Japanese masks turned up on Amazon or eBay at a sensible price, you know, not a stupid price, I'll probably get them. But the issue is, you know, like when lots of people ask me about certain masks and things like that, is it has to be an acceptable price for me to buy it. You know, I'm not going to spend stupid money on a gas mask, especially when I have so many fully functional masks anyway. No, I've not even heard that Elon Musk had an armored truck. For like aesthetic reasons, old masks probably. In terms of practicality, what would I want if I ever had to use one, a new one, you know, by a mile? Because new ones are pretty much, as long as they're from a reputable company, are pretty much guaranteed to work. Whereas if you had an old surplus mask, you know, as well as, you know, how good some surplus masks were, even the good ones, the older they are, the less likely they are to work just due to bits failing on them or like filter obsolescence and stuff like that. What's the mask on the shelf? What's the make on the shelf mask? So Soz is like saying, what's the mask on the shelf with the nose thing? All right, which one are you looking at? So the shelf, are you on about the Sieb Gorman Vista Vision? I won't get it down because it can be a bit of a pain. If you mean that one, that's the Soviet MM1 tankers gas mask. That's the voice diaphragm there. If you mean the Sieb Gorman there, potentially, that's a Sieb Gorman Vista Vision, and that's just where the exhale valve is behind the metal bit. Just to warn you, Alex, where you've been spamming comments like that the last couple of streams, you do it again, you're just getting blocked because you're not. There's your timeout as a warning. I just say buy it wherever it's cheapest to buy. Manatee. Because I don't know, is there any laws in the US about buying stuff from Russia, or is there like import bans from Russian stuff? Because I know there was on firearms at one point. But if there's not, then yeah, sure. Just get it wherever it's the cheapest postage, cheapest original price. We don't talk about politics normally on these streams, Kid from the Zone, so there's your warning. Don't ask again. What, the L1A1 SLR? Is that the one you're looking at? Because there's also a Lee Enfield up there, but you can't see that really very well because the Soviet masks are sitting on it. It could definitely Miroslav be, or sorry, Miroslav, sorry, is that how you pronounce your name? Probably butchering that. Miroslav. It could definitely be, yeah, a Warsaw Pact copy. Polish and Hungarian stuff is like English alphabet, not Cyrillic. I'm trying to think what other like Warsaw Pact nations. East Germany, but obviously East German helmets are pretty distinctive. So it could be Hungarian or it could be Polish. It's hard to say without seeing it. But I'm not very good at all at picking apart different Warsaw Pact helmets, you know, where they put different glazes on them or slightly different straps. There are some people who are really into collecting helmets like that. You have a lot of gas masks. I could tell you, you know, if it's this sort of color and it's got this sort of strap, if it's like, you know, a Czech M10 or a Polish, you know, MP4, that kind of thing. But when it comes to helmets, they don't interest me enough that, you know, I can go, oh, judging by the straps, that can't be a Soviet one. It has to be that sort of one. Oh, that's the French or Belgian rifle, isn't it, from World War One, like the battle rifle kind of machine gun thing. eBay is the easiest place to get an S10. The bottom shelf, it looks green with circular eye lenses. If you're on about the MM1, that's not green. It's sort of a dark grey colour. But that's the Soviet MM1 sort of tank crewman's respirator. Yeah, Warsaw Pact isn't around anymore. It was the name of like the Soviet Union's NATO sort of, you know, like the opposite of NATO. So it was called Warsaw Pact because they signed it in Warsaw, I think, the agreement sort of thing. But the primary members, other than the Soviet Union, were East Germany, Poland, and Czechoslovakia. But then there was a few other sort of smaller ones, like I assume Romania, and you know, some of those were in it as well. But basically, it's like what NATO is today, but just made up of commie countries. No, the shell shots from World War One, not World War Two. Not really US Vietnam era stuff. I've got some, you know, like British equipment from that period, like the SLR was from that period and all that. But no, I don't really have any American stuff. The closest I have to American Vietnam equipment is if it's in frame. I'll turn that down so you see it. See the flak jacket there? That's the British ones that are basically copies of the US flak jackets from Vietnam. But, you know, it's not a actual American Vietnam one. Okay, how do you know it's genuine though, Mr. Ginge? Like, again, that's cool if you have, but I've seen a lot of people say, like, I bought an original whatever and it's just a generic one and they've been overcharged for it. If you have, that's pretty cool. I know the ones you mean, Oliver, but no, I don't have one. I might get one if I see one for a good price. Yeah, of course I've heard of Battlefield 5, but I'm not buying it. There's your thing. Have I heard of it? Yes. Would I buy it? No. All right, Stug, if I didn't say hello already. So, yeah, there'll be 2 new Geiger... Oh, actually, 3 new Geiger counters coming this week, hopefully. Or at least 2 should come this week. So, yeah, the two sort of classic Geiger counters are the CDV 706B, as in the old US civil defense one, the West German one, which has an incredibly long, complex German name meaning radiation detector, because of course they wouldn't just call it a Geiger counter, even though, you know, Geiger was German, wasn't he? Geiger and Muller, who invented the Geiger counter. That's very cool looking. And I've also got a modern Chinese Geiger counter coming, like the one that's like their equivalent of the SOX01M, you know, that shows you like dose you're receiving and like a cumulative dose. So that would be good, because basically, because they're like £50 now, you know, and a few different retailers have them. What I want to do with those is kind of do a video actually properly evaluating it, you know, comparing the accuracy to some of the other Geiger counters I've got, seeing how reliable it is. You know, if you put it next to something like strontium-90, does the strontium-90 start causing the Geiger counter to misbehave like it does in my SOX, because the SOX just isn't tough enough for high radiation use, you know, and stuff like that. But hopefully it should mean that people can get an informed opinion on if these are any good or not, because I've not really seen any sort of channels that are properly into radiation stuff reviewing them. And I know, like, I'm not a proper radiation channel or anything, but you know, what I just want to do basically is where I have it, you know, test it against, because what I can do is, you know, see how well it works compared to other similar products. Because the issue is with lots of stuff like Geiger counters on YouTube is there's obviously some very good channels that are properly into like radiation and understand how all of it works. But a lot of the time when you see people, and I've done this obviously in older videos, get Geiger counters, they don't really kind of know what they're doing with them. As in, you know, they're just flicking the switches all over the place and going, oh, look, the needle moves a bit, you know, so they're not really informing you on how the Geiger counter works, or they don't have really any check sources to test them with. Okay, cool. Let me Google the Hungarian M70 helmet, because I'm trying to remember which the Hungarian helmet I have is. I think that might be the M70 I have. Yeah, the one I've got looks like that, because it's got like the V-shaped kind of straps on it. Although the straps are ripped on mine, or like the buckle's ripped. But yeah, it has that sort of strap system rather than it being, you know, like the single ones like that. But yeah, apparently the M70 is actually based on the SSH-40 from some of the information I can see. And again, I think it's like an updated SSH-40 with like the glossy paint on it and, you know, the updated strap system, but not the SSH-68 shell. That's interesting. No, I'm trying to book one at the moment, as in a tour of Chernobyl, but the first company I contacted never got back to me, so obviously won't be booking with them. But I'm ideally looking for one of those ones where you stay overnight in the exclusion zone, you know, and then like you have a second day in Chernobyl rather than it just being, you know, a coach trip in and out on the same day. Yeah, I went to Auschwitz, was it 2015? Obviously I didn't stick, or I think I may have done one video and then I later deleted it because I had a load of fucking neo-Nazis coming on, you know, going, oh, the Holocaust didn't happen, or, you know, I wish they got more. So I think I ended up deleting the video just because of all the cunts coming into the comment. But yeah, I went to Auschwitz in 2015. It's a pretty horrible place, but stuff like that is worth visiting, because, you know, you get more of an idea if you go around somewhere like that and just reading up on it. Not if you just book it as a tour, Oliver. They do it pretty much just, can we see your passport? There you go. It's basically done on a fee because Ukraine wants to make money from it. Yeah, don't do that with a rare mask though, Clorox. By all means, do it for GP5 or something like that. But if it's a rare old mask, do not tint it because you're ruining antique. Right, the only thing I'll complain about in terms of going there was that we were on an official tour of it, not one where you walk around yourself, and the tour guide kept saying like how you should feel and how you should think at certain times, which really pisses me off. Because if you go somewhere like that, you don't want somebody basically constantly telling you this is how you should feel looking at this. Something like that is horrible enough being there. You don't need somebody going, oh, you should feel sad, you should feel angry. It's like, yes, I get it. But yeah, I definitely recommend if you can go around there not on a tour, to not do it on a tour, so you can take your time and look through, bits faster or slower as you want to. Finn, I keep saying in these streams, I'm not taking a foul down. Don't keep asking, you'll get blocked. Because, I don't understand why some people can't take no for an answer. If you want to see the foul, watch the videos of the foul on my channel. But yeah, if it's Drager M65, stick him on by all means. But yeah, wow, it gets said on like every stream. So the hospital basement is like locked off now, I believe, because of all the idiots just going down there with like no protective gear on, going, oh, my Geiger counter is going off the scale. Yeah, of course it is, because there's fucking like strontium 90 and cesium 137 everywhere down there in like radioactive dust. I'm glad you like them, Sam's Collectibles. But yeah, so that's my opinion on it, and I think that would be the same for a lot of historical places like that. If they're sort of pretty significant historical event sort of places where something really horrible's happened, you probably want to just go around it at your own pace, like read all the information, and then, your reactions are pretty genuine from that. I think when you've got a tour guide basically telling you how you should think constantly on the tour, it's kind of, I think, quite insulting to the victims or something like that. Oh, it's that like the red and blue one. Oh, orange, so yeah, the red and blue type one. I assume that's Polish, leaving Zeus, but what exactly is it? Let me search it, because I know WZ is normally what they put on a load of Polish gear, but oh, it's helmet. So is that like the Kevlar one? That's quite a cool shape. I like the look of that. Yeah, that one where the German goes down there. Yeah, Richard. He's going, oh, he's saying, oh, this many sieverts on my Geiger counter, or like millisieverts on my. I know he's in German, but he's saying it's like this many millisieverts on the Geiger counter, essentially. So it's like a really, really bloody high millisievert reading he's getting on the Geiger counter. So, like that would be dozens of Röntgen per hour, I think, from the reading he's getting. And then, yeah, he is literally poking and prodding the stuff with his bare hands. And, he's got this little flimsy dust mask on as well. Like one of those just papery kind of dust masks that do it with the straps. So, of course, that's not going to give him proper airtight protection. You inhale any of that dust down there when you kick it up when you walk around, you're dead. Because if it's stuff like cesium and strontium in the dust, you breathe that in, you're dead. It's not going to kill you immediately, but within a year or two, you're going to have lung cancer. And yeah, like Richard said, he's touching it with his bare hands, and he's in the basement for like literally less than a minute before all the alarms start going off on his dosimeter. That's saying you're like a dangerously high dose, you need to evacuate. He's like, oh, the alarm is going off. Yeah, it's going off because you're dying, basically. Like, I like messing about with radioactive stuff, but, there's kind of a degree of, where somebody doesn't really seem to understand what they're dealing with. Yeah, it's on YouTube. I can find it for you, Mr. Ginge, if you want. Hang on. Because it's a video every time I watch it. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what is this guy doing? Also, don't forget to watch the stream, everybody. Not watch the stream, like the stream. Chernobyl, if I put Chernobyl basement in, it should find it. Yeah, it's this one. Inside Chernobyl radioactive basement, Pripyat hospital, firefighters close. Right. Here is the video. Maybe don't watch it until after the stream's over. But yeah, his dosimeter alarm, I think it has 2 alarms on it, and both start going off. Like the high radiation warning alarm and the one that says you've already taken, like the maximum dose you should have had alarm. Cheers, Yeet. What do you mean, Oliver, in terms of like the old PDFs there, or what? That's interesting. Also, I've got one where I've re-dyed one of the old ones that had really faded. And I've got one now that's actually in quite good condition, because when I went to my local army surplus shop that's, you know, closed now, sadly, it was one where, because, you know, you could see all the uniforms hanging up, I actually managed to find one that wasn't faded, but, you know, nearly all of those sort of Serbian Yugo camos now are quite faded, but, you know, luckily there was one there that, whatever reason, the dyes were the original colours. Yeah, that's very true, Rich. You can somehow afford a dosimeter. And what year did he make this video? 2 years ago. So what, 2017 or something? I doubt at that point you could get the most basic kind of Geiger / dosimeter like he was using for less than £100, sort of, you know, €100, £100. So he's spending all that, yet he is using nothing more than like a paper dust mask. He doesn't even say what rating it is, so it might even be a P1 rated one, you know, so some of that dust is just going to go through it, even if it was properly tight to his face. But yeah. Oh, well, leaving Zeus, that's like Poland's equivalent of a Pasca, isn't it? So, you know, should be good. But yeah, watching that video, it makes me literally just go, you know, why? You know, that video definitely shortened that guy's lifespan. There's like no doubt about that. Like I said, I like playing radioactive stuff, but I like to think I limit my exposure quite a lot. You know, never get around anything that's airborne, because airborne is the big risk with it. Because obviously, like I said, a lot of the stuff is external threat of radiation. You only really have to worry about gamma to a big extent. But yeah, when it's literally radioactive dust, it gets into you and it doesn't come out. That's the danger. So it's constantly irradiating and damaging your insides. I already linked it, you, but it was the one people were saying about the, you know, go to Chernobyl with a dust mask, kill yourself through radiation exposure. Apparently the guy hasn't uploaded any new videos. I want to double check that. But yeah, he's got a 3M dust mask on. Oh, you can see some of his clothes underneath his dust suit as well that are sticking out. So he's probably irradiated his clothes. Oh no, apparently he had done 2 videos after that. So I guess he's not dead yet, but whether or not he's developing lung cancer at the moment, I don't know. I'm not saying that like I wish for him to die. I certainly don't, but what he did was so fucking stupid. Unless you can have a material that offers the same kind of ability as lead but doesn't weigh a lot. Never, basically. But the Schubert's the German copy of a Pasca, isn't it? But yeah, both look cool. I think the WZ-2005 is meant to offer more protection, isn't it? Yeah, maybe in the meantime between that video and the other one, he'd only done 2 videos. But, you know. Yeah, I was getting very angry in a previous stream, Retro Nerd, because, one, I found a thing where somebody got a bloody, one of those Geiger counters that I've got coming, and had decided they wanted to make it look Fallouty. So they spray painted it silver and didn't do even a very good job of spray painting it, you know, where it's like really patchy spray paint. They spray painted some logos on the side and obviously hadn't got the things held on, like the decal kind of things held on properly when they spray painted it. So they were blurred. And they ripped out the original like needle display, you know, like that kind of display on a Geiger counter, and put a little LCD screen on it. So it's that level of why? Why have you spent money taking something that was perfectly functional and now made it less functional and look shit? And the other one that really annoyed me, and this annoys me even more, is I want to get one of the old British Geiger counters, and they weren't made in massive numbers either, like, you know, the cold war ones. The one I'm interested in is called the Radiac Survey Meter, sort of number 2 or Mark II. You can probably find a bit of information on it online, but there's not loads of information. But basically, it's a handheld unit. It's not like one with a wand. It's like a metal kind of case. It's got the display at the top and like the control switches on the side for, you know, like multiplying a dose. And at the very bottom, it has basically like the beta window. that you can put a metal flap over to only have gamma and X-rays go in, or have the beta window open and, you know, read beta as well. So, like I was saying, they didn't make them in massive numbers. They're very hard to find. Yeah, I found some pricks online that somehow managed to source some. They rip the internal electronics out and they turn them into lamps. Like, if you had one that was damaged beyond repair, sure, do whatever the fuck you want with it. But to buy a fully functioning retro Geiger counter that's quite a rare model. Good evening, Laser. Hope you're right. Thank you. But yeah, for them to buy like something that's pretty much a rare military antique and then rip the insides out because, oh, I want to resell this as a lamp, or I think this would look cool as a lamp. No. No. Just no. It's like when you see pictures of people who've got rare old guns and like spray painted them and like cut bits off because, you know, I think it looks good like this. Oh, sorry, I'll go back to the comments I missed while I was ranting about that then. Yeah, the thing is, like, I don't like to get political, basically, about a lot of stuff, because it just makes people, you know, hate each other online. Like, I don't like the ideology of communism, like Nazism or anything like that, you know, like what I'd consider pretty extremist ideologies, because they killed a lot of people. But the thing is, I like the military history behind all of them. You know, it's like, you don't have to agree with an ideology to, like, think the uniforms look interesting or think their equipment was well made and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, but that's only them damaging themselves, Sam. See, my feeling on a lot of stuff like this, it kind of goes into my political beliefs, is if you are harming other people and stuff like that, then it's bad. If you're doing something that harms yourself, you should be allowed to do it, even if it's stupid. You know, it's why I think most drugs should be legalized. And if people want to take a lethal dose of something, you know, why not? Because people can already, you know, commit suicide by taking loads of paracetamol or drinking themselves to death. You know, so why shouldn't they be allowed to ingest more fun, you know, drugs, essentially? So my opinion on a lot of it is if somebody's damaging themselves, you know, I don't care, really. You know, I think it's stupid a lot of the time. But it's when they're damaging somebody else, you know, causing harm to others and, to a degree, rare stuff. Because, you know, the thing is, I legitimately feel bad if I buy an old piece of military equipment and I manage to damage it. And for the people asking, that's why I've never bought any World War I stuff, because it's very expensive. And, you know I'm prone to damage it, especially because the older it is, generally the more fragile it is. But yeah, I'm sure it's still a good helmet, though, like WZ-2005. Yeah, but GP5 isn't really rare, I don't know, tutorials, so, you know. For that reason, it wouldn't bother me, because the GP5 there's like over 100 million of them built, so. But, you know, it would be kind of like the equivalent, let's think of a good mask equivalent. The British Geiger counter would kind of be like, what? I can't think off the top of my head. What's the semi-rare gas mask? One that, like, you can find generally if you spend enough time looking and are willing to pay enough, but otherwise they're rare. It'd be like somebody doing it to one of those. It depends how valuable I think it should be, Oliver. Because generally, my thing is I'm willing to spend quite a lot quite often, but it has to be something I think is worth that value, and I'd get that, you know, value's enjoyment out of it. So for DAC guns, you know, I could go into several hundreds, but for a gas mask, I wouldn't, kind of thing. You know, like stuff like Geiger counters, I'm a lot more willing to spend more money on them because they're kind of cool, functional pieces of equipment. Yeah, there's lots of stuff like that which just doesn't make sense to me. Like, again, if it's like something that's mass produced, you know, I don't mind people doing it so much because it's not like it's stopping other people getting those bits of tech, you know. If it's their money, they can do what they want. But when it's stuff that's rare, that's when it annoys me a lot more. Yeah, the thing is, like, in my school, we had a family, like, he was in the year above me. I won't say too much because obviously it's a bit personal for him, but he talked to me about it. And his family were all Serbian, and they fled from Yugoslavia, you know, when they were a young age, or, you know, it might have been like Serbia then, because it was when Yugoslavia broke up. And they fled because, like, lots of their extended family and people they knew had been killed by, like, Croatians, you know. essentially just executed. The thing is, in like lots of those wars, is there isn't really a good guy. Like one side might do more evil things than another, but for a lot of the innocent people trapped in it, it's a horrible situation. So I'm essentially as a foreigner, I'm not going to go, oh yeah, I know best about your own history, and all that sort of stuff. That's just a very ignorant thing to do. But I've never had a problem with really anybody I've met, or any country as individual people. Because the thing is, it's not me who's come up with this, but I'd say it's better to judge people as individuals, not saying, they did this because they're black, they did this because they're white, they did this because of their religion. I mean, sometimes that can be a factor for why people do things, but it's wrong to judge an entire group of people based on what individuals might have done in that group. What are you on about? Are you on about the Avon escape hood? I can't actually see where that is off the top of my head. Oh, there it is. But yes, because the carbon dioxide started building up in it because the valve didn't open properly, if you mean this mask. I've got an 80-litre storage box on order. I can't remember if I said yet this stream, but what I'm going to do is, I think it was Chris that suggested it, was get a massive storage box, put loads of that stuff in a storage box as neatly as possible, and then just put it there so it's not cluttering everything up. Yeah, so it was the one I just showed. I don't know tutorials, yeah. But yeah, the Yugoslavian Geiger counters saying that are quite interesting. But I've never seen them for sale, or if I have, I think they were very expensive for what they were, because it was, somebody who wanted really a lot of postage for it as well. But what's quite interesting is like how Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, quite a lot of war. I know Yugoslavia wasn't actually in the Warsaw Pact, but how a lot of those countries actually had, like domestically designed stuff. Like, because if you just initially thought of it, you'd think everybody who was in the Warsaw Pact probably used Soviet Geiger counters, like, or DP5 variants, but they actually didn't. Like, that one behind me there is the Polish DP-75, and that's technically better. It's not as sturdy as some of the Soviet Geiger counters, but it has, like, a higher capacity and, has, like, a lot of better quality features on it. I've got a mannequin in the other room that's dressed up in an East German uniform. That's actually in some of the videos from a while ago. But the issue is, with mannequins, they're not going to stand up very well unless they're ones that, like screwed into a big wooden kind of heavy base. Because if you've just got a mannequin like mine that stands on its own legs, if you put anything on it that weighs more frontally or backwards, it tips over. So that mannequin is actually attached to the wall via some paracord, like on a hook, to keep it standing upright properly. When I tried putting an AK on it, it kept tilting over, or like the mannequin's arms kept falling off because they weren't sturdy enough to hold it. Yeah, if you want to see it, it's that. I think, see that mask behind me there, the Soviet PY60M, or whatever it is in Cyrillic. I think it's basically the Bulgarian kind of copy of it. The valves look a bit different on it, but otherwise it looks very similar. So this actually has two valves on it, like two exhale valves and the two intake valves. But it's quite good. It's, like one of those 3M style masks, just a bit more primitive and obviously a lot older. But I was just trying to see there if there's writing in the rubber inside, or if it's just where it's slightly, I think it's just slightly textured. Is there any information on the side of it? Not on that side. Not on that side. I was just seeing if there was any serial numbers or anything on it, but I don't think there is. Yeah, the rubber's old on it, so the rubber ripped at one point when I was adjusting it. But basically, it works like a lot of those 3M style masks. You have an adjustable rear strap type thing, where, that goes around your neck, and then obviously it's looped into this bit, and then you just attach that. So, it's like those 3M design masks, just way older, and, it's perfectly functional. Whether or not these particulate filters in them contain asbestos or not, I don't know. I have to use them with a microscope at some point. If they're not stupid money, I don't know, tutorials, that's quite good if it's like the 4A1 style ones. No, what film's that? Sam's Collectibles, but favourite war film would be Where Eagles Dare. If it's kind of silly and over the top. It's not like a very realistic war film, but it's good fun. You can carry heavier filters, Yeet, that last longer. That's basically the advantage. If you look at like World War One masks, like the sort of, you know, English box respirator or corrected English model, those, they always use box filters, and then most British World War II masks use box filters up until like light anti-gas respirators, which use like the smaller filters. And the idea was basically that, you know, you could build a bigger, more reliable filter, and then the weight of it sits in the satchel when you use the hose. Also, it means if you have the hose coming out of the chin area, it can be used if you're left or right-handed. Whereas if you've got the filter on the left or right side, it restricts you to which way you can shoot a gun. If you want to have a look at this, tell me if there's anything interesting on there. I'll take a photo at some point and just put it through Google Translator, but there's the old ancient bit of paper that came with it. But yeah, there you go. I bet that bit is saying it works at temperatures 5C to plus 20C, which isn't a very big operational range, but I'm assuming that's what the 5 to 20C bit means, or it probably means you should store the mask between those temperatures. That would make more sense. Yeah, where it turns into like old Bible paper. Like if you ever find the old Bibles that are in like hotel drawers, like the what's it? What was the name of that company? Well, it's not really a company, is it? But like a religious group that printed all the Bibles. Can't think of what their name is now. I've actually got one. Not one I stole, like literally one I actually bought for the sake of having a Bible, but you know how the old Bible paper goes really thin and yellowed. That's the only way I can describe it for people who haven't got books. Oh, I'll tell you what I really love, actually, like that. If I've got it in this room, I think it's in this room. My copy of June. Have I got my copy of June in this room? Yeah, I have. An entire book with paper like that. Because this is like my dad's old book from the 50s or 60s. When it would be 60s, wouldn't it, June? The if you look at the paper in this, I don't know how obvious it is on the webcam. It started going like Bible paper. Has that sort of smell to it as well. Yeah, hopefully you can see that, like how thin the paper's gone. Ah, yeah, well, that would make sense because, yeah, it's basically a mask for Fallout by Coilo, or if I'm pronouncing your name right, I'm probably butchering that. But yeah, it's basically, yeah, like the masks on the bottom of that Soviet chart is to protect from fallout, you know, radioactive dust. Protect you from stuff like anthrax as well, I imagine. But yeah, it doesn't protect you from poisonous gas because there's no charcoal or anything in it. If I can get June to sit back on the shelf where I took it down from. There we go. Yeah, I mean, it's not great, is it, in terms of preservation of them? Like, you'd rather it stay white and really crisp. But, you know, it is cool from, like, a historic factor, thinking this is old enough that it's actually going through some sort of process like that. I have no idea, Sam. Lots of filters have a bit of a smell to them anyway. Yeah, I've played Counter-Strike 1.6, Condition Zero, CS Source, and CSGO. Weirdly, CSGO is the one I've played the least. Source is the one I've played the most. But yeah, Laser, if you didn't hear earlier when I was on the stream, because, you know, you didn't come in right at the beginning, I've got 2 Geiger counters coming, well, 3 actually, but 2 that are like really cool old retro Geiger counters. The US CDV 700 6B. That only goes up to 50 milli Rontgen, I think is the max reading, so I can max that out pretty easily. And I won an auction tonight on a weird West German, really cool looking Geiger counter. When I tried to look up videos of it, both in German and English, there are no videos of it on YouTube. So if it comes and it works, and I hope it works, because otherwise I wouldn't have spent as much as I spent on it. It will be my videos, other than like reading translated manuals of it online, will be like the only videos on this Geiger. The Geiger, if you're on about the Geiger I've ordered from Germany, it looks very good. It does 500 millirontgen is the smallest scale. I think that's, I'm not sure what the start of that scale is. I assume 500 millirontgen is the top of the scale. Maybe it's like 100 millirontgen is the smallest bit on the scale. And then the top end of the scale is 500 Rontgen. So it's a pretty big scale in terms of capacity. I mean, it's not as good as like that Polish one that goes from literally like 1 millirontgen all the way up to 2,500 Rontgen. It's not as good as the Polish one, but still pretty impressive range. But it's the only old Geiger counter I've seen that has a built-in dosimeter. As in, it's got a really cool free kind of wheel thing. That's like 000 to 999 with R next to it for Rontgen, or Rontgen, however you're meant to pronounce Rontgen. I used German, wasn't you? So it's probably Rontgen. And basically, as the Geiger is exposed, it has like a little wheel that swivels around. So, you know, it literally goes, and then when it gets to 9, obviously it will go to 10. And then obviously if you get to 999 Rontgen, you're very dead. But, you know, that's the only classic Geiger counter I've ever seen that has a dosimeter built into the Geiger counter. There probably was other models that did it. It's just really cool having like 3 big spinning numbers that, you know, keep spinning around to tell you how irradiated you've become. I don't really know websites that are trustworthy in of themselves for buying surplus, because I, like I say, get nearly everything from eBay, either from surplus sellers that have a lot of stock in, or sometimes, you know, just individual people that randomly have something listed and I think that looks cool. I'll get a picture of it up if I can still get a picture of it up. Right, what was the name of it? Because it had a very long German name, which, you know, doesn't surprise me. Okay, Strahlenspurgerat is the German name, which I probably, again, not pronounced. Strahlenspurgerat. Okay, so that's the name of it if you want me to paste it into the chat. So you can just copy and paste it. So that's the name of it. Yeah, go ahead if there's something you think I may like. Let me see if I can get you a high-res picture up of the actual unit. Okay, this is... Oh, is this what... I'm trying to find just a high-res one that shows the counter directly on, rather than, you know, from a weird angle so you can't read the display. If I can direct link to this. Yeah, I can. This isn't as high-res as I'd like, but this should give you some idea. If that's a Mark III or Mark IV NBC suit, I've already got them. Jesus, but thanks anyway. But yeah, if that's Mark III or Mark IV NBC suits, which I imagine it is, I've already got them. I've got a Mark IV in Woodland, and I had 2 Mark III suits. I've still got one, and I gave the other one to Weapon Collector, because I was never going to open it, because it was a spare. I don't know if lasers could pick up radiation, Iron Man, because how a Geiger counter works in of itself is it has the probe. Let me show you on this one, the mini monitor. So how a Geiger counter works, and I'm probably going to really badly explain this because I'm not into the electronics enough, and like as an electrician would be. So you have your scale there, and you have your probe. The probe has a tube in that basically detects ionizing radiation. It converts ionizing radiation into electrical current. What the screen is there is an ampere, or whatever it's called. You know, like one of the things that would give you an amp readout in a circuit. Because it converts ionizing radiation to electrical charge, it basically just sees how much current is going through it to give you a reading of how radioactive it is. Yep, what Vrantic says. But like in terms of minimalistically, you can build your own Geiger counter sets, and all they are is like the GM tube attached to a load of electronics in a circuit with an ampere on, essentially, or, you know, like a digital ampere. And if you're interested in what a Geiger tube itself looks like, they don't always have to look like this, but I have got one. If you want to see one, Iron Man. Here is a sort of Warsaw Pact Geiger tube. This is a replacement one. This works. Actually, no, this was the one that was originally in it, and it works. And it's just I replaced it in case that was the fault in my DP66. But the tube wasn't the problem. It was some of the wiring coming loose inside. But they are literally, like, modern ones are a lot smaller than this, but that's literally all they are. Is just, and I mean, if it was an Alpha probe, it has an Alpha mica window on it. But it's just, yeah, a positive, negative sort of thing. Well, it's not exactly the same as a cathode ray tube, but that's an easy way of thinking of it, I guess. But, yeah, interestingly, you could literally buy something like this, attach some croc clips to it if you add enough of the other stuff for the circuitry and you have a working Geiger counter. Because Geiger counters are a lot more simple than I think people think. The whole point of those units being really big is because, you know, they're a bit more complicated and they're designed to, you know, do a lot of functions rather than it just simply being, here is a reading in amps or whatever. Yep, you could certainly do that, Iron Man. I mean, the problem is enough amounts of ionizing radiation would just cause the signal to fail with the drone. But yeah, in terms of remote control stuff with a Geiger counter on it, yeah. You could literally get a dosimeter, attach it to a drone, fly the drone around and see what radiation it picks up. During the atomic bomb tests the US did in like the 40s, 50s and 60s, they did quite a lot where they flew unmanned drones, you know, like ones that were done on RC basically, not as advanced as, you know, like modern drones, with like filters and all sort of detection equipment on them as well to see like what would happen with different effects of nukes. Yeah. I mean, it depends on how sensitive the electronics are, though. Because, again, a lot of it will depend on shielding and, like, how well made it is. But, yeah, if it's like Chernobyl, where your lunar rovers and your German bomb disposal robot break down because of the high radiation levels, yeah, you're literally fucked kind of levels of radiation. What country are you in then, Oliver? Are you in like Australia or New Zealand or somewhere in like East Asia where it's already the morning? Because it's the evening here. It's 10 to 9 p.m. at the moment. Yeah, again, it's hard to say. It's a lot of it's going to be down to shielding, I imagine. All right, cool. Yeah, I think a lot of it would be shielding, just because. Like, for example, this is just a very primitive example. Where I have the SOX01M, you know, like little small Geiger counter, dosimeter, that, if I put on the strontium-90 source, starts messing up, because the strontium-90, because there's so little, you know, 2D electronics in the SOX, the strontium-90 is actually giving enough charge out to it that it essentially starts making the battery go, you know, like that on it. And after about an hour, the SOX is horribly overheated and won't take accurate readings anymore. And if you had it on long enough, it would actually break the Geiger tube because it would just overload it completely. Whereas, you know, any of those kind of units work fine. The mini monitor would, except the mini monitor is designed for very low, you know, like very high sensitivity of low radiation fields. Because it's like a scientific instrument type one of, you know, like measuring a little sample on a desk and then doing all the calculations. But yeah, but like those retro Geigers, for example, can read strontium fine. But like a modern cheap one can't, because they're designed to be kind of jack of all trades Geigers. And I guess if you're getting that kind of reading on it, it's telling you, know, to get out of here now. See you, Sam, if you're off. And that's the same thing with some other brands, like even more expensive brands than the SOX ones and some of the little Geigers. I found another video where a guy got a radioactive check source that was really hot. And when he put it on it, it kept causing it to trip over, because, you know, it overloaded the max reading of the Geiger and then it went back to 0 and kept doing that. So yeah, I think a lot of it depends on how good the shielding is, like how good the components are. But yeah, in theory, I think with modern electronics, if somebody did something well enough, you might be able to make something that withstands a lot of radiation. But an interesting thing, though, saying that, is I pretty much trust the Japanese to be very good at electronics. When Fukushima happened, they tried sending robots in there for like surveillance, and a lot of them broke down due to radiation. and that was a lot lower radiation amounts than Chernobyl. Yeah, I guess the problem then becomes, if you put too much lead on it, would it weigh it down too much? And obviously you need a camera that can see out, so you obviously have to have a hole where the camera is, and then is it possible for like the camera to just kind of surge the unit if the camera's exposed? You know, I don't know, because I'm not enough into electronics to know that, but it's just, you know, what I found from playing with Geigers is just some very interesting stuff, kind of, you know, how, because the interesting thing is, in a lot of these retro Geiger units, they're actually a lot better than modern electronics, in the sense of they're very bulky, but they have, you know, all the cool, you know, like vacuum tube kind of assembly type stuff, which is actually a lot more solid. At the moment, we were talking about Geiger counters and radiation and old Bandit, but, you know, anything CBRN or vaguely related, as long as it isn't politics, should be good. Yeah, I changed the shelves around a bit, because that's the shelf that isn't as stable, and I had the RS-70 radiation alarm. I'll tell you what I'll do, because this will be interesting. If I've got a screwdriver handy, if I've not, I can't do it now. Ooh, I just dropped the piezoelectric speaker that I've got that works on pretty much any Geiger. I'm going to open this up if I've got a screwdriver that fits it here. I think the Swiss Army one will. Because I'm tempted to see what's inside of this. I've not got any batteries in it at the moment. And I don't think I'll break it, because these old things are built. But if you want to sort of see out of interest. Oh, interestingly, as far as I'm aware, Iron Man, water itself can't be irradiated. It's just like if there's radioactive particles in the water. As far as I'm aware, I could be completely wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure I've read that in quite a few places. That, you know, like the danger of radioactive water is stuff like radioactive dust and things like that in the water, not the water itself. But yeah, I'm going to open it, because I think B-Store said he's going to be he's getting a load more of these in. He's hoping to sell them really cheap soon, like £10 each or something. It might not have been that cheap. It might have been like £14, £15, but I kind of want to look inside. But the thing is with the RS-70 is, because it needs half a Röntgen per hour on the lowest setting to sound the alarm, I've not actually got anything that gives off enough gamma radiation to do that. Yeah. The coolest thing in this, though, is that bulb that seems to glow brighter and brighter. So I don't know if it's actually got a kind of, what's it called, mechanism in this. What's the name of it? We'll have to break these seals, unfortunately, but oh well. This has these kind of wax seals on it to say, just before I break the other one, there's that one. It has those kind of wax seals to say that, you know, it's properly lab sealed. And then you have to kind of scratch them off to get at the screws. But yeah, this would definitely sound in Chernobyl, but I assume it just has an ionization chamber in, but it'd be quite interesting to have it. Ooh. Oh, yeah, it's a Swiss Army knife, isn't it? It's not a proper... See, that's why I like locking knives, because they're safer. This wax seal has really gone solid. On my DP66, it was a lot easier to get off than this. Let me do the other screws first, and then... Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's the thing. Is this works, as in electrical circuits work on it, and the circuit test works, but because I have no way of actually testing it, unless somebody happens to know where I can get some cesium-137 in the UK, or KCM-137, however you pronounce it, it's impossible for me to test. So I might as well open it up, because I don't think I'll even damage it. And, you know, you can actually have a look at what the insides of one of these look like. Nearly always eBay, Paul. Not always eBay, but the majority of the time, yes, because that's where loads of people sell interesting things. You know, and it's easy for people to like sell surplus on eBay and whatever else. Right, I'm gonna have to scratch that off now, aren't I, to get at the other screw. I wonder if it's easiest just to turn that around like that. All I need is to get it off enough that I can actually see the screw thread, and then I can... I think that screw thread is facing vertically, so... Almost at it. Just need to get enough wax out the screw thread. Sorry if this is very boring for people that can't. Oh, okay. That's interesting, Chris. I've got a little bit of tritium over there, but yeah. It's only beta, isn't it? But yeah, I didn't know it could actually contaminate stuff. So yeah, you learn something new every day. So water itself can be radioactive. See, this is why I never claimed to be a physicist or anything like that, because you can easily prove me wrong on those sort of things. Yeah, hopefully I'll go next year, but that gets brought up several times on like every stream, so I'm still scratching through a load of this bloody wax on this seal. Come on. Let me see if I can get that other wax seal off easier. Tell you what, let me use a lock knife just so I can see if I can lever it off, you know, more safely. It's literally spraying wax at me. Yeah, this one is cutting off all right. I'll just cut the other one off. I'll just hoover this up later because it's going to be a pain in the ass trying to get this off neatly. Yeah, because it's just due to the age, it's crumbling everywhere. But yeah, let's just clear a bit of that so I can twist it. There we go. Same for this one. Tell you what, I'll put the webcam down a bit so it's not so boring for people to watch. Yeah, then I need to do this one. Hopefully, eventually, we'll get to the screw. Ah, there he is. Look, we can just see him now. Right, there he is. Right, let's see if I can actually twist this now using the... Yeah, well, thankfully, all my videos are not designed for children, so I've just ticked that. I know a lot of people think it's going to be the end of YouTube. I've heard that so many times over the last few years on YouTube that I never listen to that stuff anymore. I'll just comply with whatever Google's rules are and then just hope for the best. Not much else you can do, really. Ah, that's interesting, Laser. I don't know if I've seen it or not, because I've watched loads of Chernobyl videos. Again, I did it the wrong way. I fucking hate non-locking knives. I've watched loads of Chernobyl-related videos over the years, because I find the whole exclusion zone really interesting. But yeah, I've seen some videos where people manage to find like little bits of cesium or strontium or whatever on the ground, you know, where it's like really high radiation still. Why is this bit being such a bitch to get the screwdriver into? I think it's because there's a bit of wax stuck in the screw. Right, let me get all the other screws completely loose first, and then I'll see if I can, you know, put a bit of force on that. My favourite gas mask is the Avon CT12. Right, okay, now let's give him a go again. This is getting very frustrating at this point. Right, back to the lock knife again to see if I can get more of this off. I think I'm going to have to use the knife to get all of that wax off to... Should have heated it, shouldn't I? Because then the wax would have melted. Oh, well, I'm an idiot. I think the screw thread's not in brilliant condition either. Because obviously if it was in better condition, it'd be a bit easier to turn the... I'm getting like hand cramp, like wanker's cramp now, from all the bloody twisting and turning with the thing. Right, where did I put my Swiss Army knife? There it is. It wasn't radioactive, Iron Man. That was when they used ricin, wasn't it? The Bulgarians assassinated somebody using a ricin umbrella. There we go. But yeah, it fired a ricin capsule in that got into his blood and poisoned him. So it was like a hypodermic. Yeah, it's starting to turn now. Not very well, but there we go. Fucking hating on lock knives. See, this is why I don't, when people go, oh, there's no reason you shouldn't have, you should need a lock knife in the UK. You must be a criminal. It's like, no, they're just safer because they can never close on your fingers, especially if you're trying to move something that doesn't want to move, like this. Right. There we go. That's another twist done. This is very slow going, but if I ever had to do something like this again, I'd just literally get the power drill out with the screwdriver attachment on it and just, do it with electrical. But we're nearly there now. Also I might have got my big proper screwdriver out rather than trying to do it with a thing like this. But I need to do this a bit with my hand because, like I said, horrible wanker's cramp from gripping the screwdriver and trying to twist this off. Right, what I'm going to probably have to do in a minute is I assume turn this upside down because I think if it's like the DP66, the screws kind of have to fall out part of the way. They're like, let's see, yeah, because they'll attach to that bit of the lid on a continuous bit of the screw. So I'll put that up again now so you can see what I'm doing. Shame I don't have a magnetic screwdriver handy. This is also where sometimes they can kind of stick here and not want to come out. I might actually, tell you what. Get a screwdriver where there's a little gap in the casing, get that in and lever it. I'll damage the bake light slightly, but oh well. Sometimes you have to do that to sort of get them to come off. There we go. It's like prizing open a coffin. As much as it isn't very safe, I'm going to have to use a knife, I think, because, there we go. Right, there we are. So, lovely red commie circuit board, not much that back cover. Let's have a look at the insides. So, cool. Try that in a bit, Richard, if it doesn't go away. So, yeah, there's the ionization chamber by the look of it. I think that bit there. I don't know if this lifts out easily, because obviously if it's properly attached to the front, I don't want to try and pull it out and just, yank it out from the front. But what I'll do, let me open the battery compartment, because then at least the battery lids aren't holding it in place. It's actually Polish, but yeah, so for whatever reason, lots of commie Warsaw Pact stuff, they used really cool red looking circuit boards. Okay, is it attached to anything inside still? That's what I'm trying to see, is there any, like obvious screws that attach it to the casing? Probably those screws there, but is that a wire running through that screw? So I don't really want to remove it if that's a wire. Does the switch have to be in a certain position for it to come out? That bit is what the switch attaches to, look. So that's that. But I would assume you could get the front panel off if you needed to work on bits of it. Is there any little small screws in this section? Not that I can see, but it definitely feels like it's held on there somehow. Like I said, I don't want to force it because there's no point breaking it when it actually physically works. But yeah, if you want to see the circuit board underneath. If the webcam wants to focus, that would be nice. Yeah, SLR's my favourite deactivated gun. Right, I'll tell you what, I'll take these screws off because I'm kind of interested in seeing if it will lift off easily with these screws removed. At least these turn quite easily compared to the other ones. I'll do a few more revolutions of the screwdriver and then they should just come off of my thumb. That one's already coming off of my thumb. Yeah, this is 495 volts when you've actually got current running through it. So a lot of these Geiger things use step-up circuitry to get the voltage really high to actually, have a working Geiger tube. But I assume this is just an ionization chamber in this. But let's have a look. Right. Right, you asked one more time, Paul, you're getting blocked because I just fucking answered you, didn't I? No, Chevel's legal in the UK. Whether or not you could carry one on you is another thing, because it's probably what do they think your intent is if you're carrying a Chevel round on you. But actual Chevels themselves, no, they're not illegal. I might have to undo that in a second as well, I'm not sure. Because there's a few more like nuts and things on here with the... Oh, I think this is going to lift off now. Maybe. Okay, so I now need to just get these... Right, okay. I should have some needle nose pliers here. All right, Mike, have you only just come on? But yeah, right, let's... Well, breaking the circuitry, but this is old commie tech, so it should manage fine, I hope. But I am good at breaking stuff on camera, so, there is that. So there's a screw for that bit, but you get it. Actually, no, they look like those bits just hold on. No, I don't think these do need to come off these ones. It's probably just a case of trying to get this to lift up just right. It's probably because it's just been on there so long it doesn't want to lift up. Yeah, there we go. Right. You didn't need to use the pliers. It was, right. So, there we are. So, there's your circuitry to that. Have a look at that. So, let's see what we can gather from this. It says made in Poland in English on this, even though it's commie equipment. That's kind of funny. Made in Poland, look. If it focuses. Yeah, it says made in Poland on what I think is the ionization chamber in there. If it wants to focus. Come on. Right, never mind. So, yeah, you've got... Again, I'm not an expert on a lot of these sort of electronics, but I am assuming one of the things is the actual ionization chamber. I quite want to get at where the bulb is on it. But that's on the bit further down, so I don't know how you get at all that. I assume what I just want to check is that those wires aren't going to snap if I do that, but no, that's fine. Okay. So that's interesting. There's a loose wire there. I don't see what that was connected to, so I don't think it's ripped off of anything. Is that just a spare wire? Very odd. I guess it should have been on circuit C16 looking at that, but... Oh, very odd. Yeah, I don't know what that wire was connected to, because it was just literally laying down there, wasn't it? Was that like a grounding wire, do you reckon? Yeah, anyway, let's have a look a bit deeper into this. I'll finish the stream fairly soon. But, where did I put my Swiss Army knife? There it is. How many Geiger counters do you have? This isn't actually a Geiger counter, this is a radiation alarm. Right, if we include the ones that are waiting to be delivered and the ones I've got, which I might not necessarily be keeping, I've got the DP-75 there and a Soviet DP-5B. That's 2. I've got the mini monitor. That's 3. I do have a DP-66, but I've given it to Bart. But if you want to include that one, 4. And I've got 3 Geiger counters on order at the moment, so I guess 7. And I've got other radiation detecting equipment, but again, they're not technically Geiger counters. Yeah, I like Forgotten Weapons. Paul Harrell's my favourite gun channel, though, on YouTube. Right, let's see if I can... I'll just put this down so you can see a bit what I'm doing. Let's see if these come out. This is obviously the bits that connects the bits of the battery compartment on here. I want to just see if this whole unit, you can lift like a load more of it out. But I really do like the look of all this old tech, you know, like this sort of stuff where, you know, it has this sort of vintage look to it, doesn't it? All right, let's... That screw's a bit tight. Some of these screws are tighter than others, which is a bit strange. But it's an interesting bit of kit. I kind of wish I was more interested in electronics at a younger age, so I actually could tell you what more of this shit does, rather than, oh, look, here's a thing. Like, I know some of it's step-up circuitry. You know, some of it will be things like fuses and all that, but... What did that person say that Mike deleted their comment? Oh, asking a question that doesn't really deserve an answer. Okay. Don't see why you wouldn't like Freddie Mercury, though. Yeah, I definitely would advise somebody getting an electric screwdriver type thing if they're going to do stuff like this often, because it does start getting a bit of a pain in, you know, the arm and the hand if you're using, you know, just cheap screwdrivers or a Swiss Army knife to always undo these bits, because obviously they're not as... Weirdly, even with those screws undone on that bit's not lifting off. That's weird. So I can't see anything else. There's another wire there that's not attached to anything. It's this one. It seems to have a lot of wires that aren't just attached to things, unless that's just like extra lengths of wire. Where, yeah, interesting. The thing I'm really interested at getting at is that stuff that looks like a, what's it? Like the ionization chamber. But annoyingly, I wish the front bit just came off like the back panel, because if it did, that'd be way easier to get at this stuff. But, you know, unless you want to break it open with a hammer, which I wouldn't recommend. And I wanted to have a look at the bulb. Actually, saying that, can I see through there? Because if I can... Yeah, I can. Right, so that bit, the bulb, just sees through there. So yeah, that is just a bulb. It's that bit it's connected to. And that answers my question. So it's not a really cool thing there. It's just literally a bulb inside. Yeah, the ionization chamber is interesting, but again, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it out easily. because all of this is kind of just wired quite well into the unit itself. Yeah, it's a shame that you can't just get the front of the unit off, because that would make it so much easier to look into this. Right, I'll tell you what, I'll put this back together now and we'll see if it still works, and I'll end the stream. Because if this is well-built commie technology, I won't have broke it, even though I've pulled it apart and hit it with pliers and things. It's not actually a Geiger counter, it's a radiation alarm. Similar to a Geiger counter, but this doesn't have a needle. It's just one that literally goes off if it's exposed to enough radiation. So it's literally just an ionization chamber with like a preset on it of half a Rontgen. Is it 20 and 50 Rontgen? Can't remember without looking. Well, let me get these screws done back up. These screws I don't even see a purpose in, because they don't actually attach to anything. At least with this old circuitry stuff, you never think, oh, if I slip, I'm going to just smash something by hitting it like that, because of how solid these sort of things are, you know, compared to some modern electronics. So again, I just love the look of all this old, you know, electric stuff, where it was built to be practical, not built to be, you know, cheap and disposable. It's a weird kind of foam stuff around the, I guess that's the alarm buzzer, is it there? But it's on the circuit board, not attached via wires, so I can't easily just take it off to see what it would do on its own if you ran a current through it. Right, now we just need to maneuver these back onto their little spikes. There we go. So that's that bit back on there. I mean, it would power up right now, even if I didn't put it all back together, but let's put these screws back into the bits they're meant to go into. Can you buy deactivated F1 grenades like I've got? Or F1 training grenades? Problem is, I wouldn't like using a power drill on like a little bit of circuitry like that. But yeah, the point is, it's a lot more practical using an electric screwdriver or a power drill. But unless you meant just like shattering the case open with a power drill. But I said, I don't really want to wreck this. It's a nice prop, even if it doesn't work anymore. But as I said, I can't really use it anyway, even though I think it does still work fine. Because I haven't got anything to expose it to that gives off enough radiation to actually make it go off. Yeah, Richard, using a hammer to take apart delicate electronics. Quite expensive for an FM12, considering that over here you can get them for like £50 or £60. But if you really wanted one, and if you say brand new as in like made in the last year or so, then yeah, I'd probably pay that. Right, okay, that's that done up enough. Now let's get the rear cover back on. Literally a bit of bakelite, quite cool. So there's that wire that doesn't seem to be attaching to anything, which I assume is just a grounding wire. Let's stick it there like that. Hope it works and doesn't electrocute me, because this has got like a few hundred volts running through it, as said previously. Just like Geiger counters do, because you need a lot of electrical charge. The nice thing of Geiger counters, they're not high in amps. They're high in volts, but not in amps, so it's hard to fatally electrocute. You can get your nasty shock, which shouldn't kill you. Anyway, so let's see if I can get these closed. These screws look like they're going to be a bit easier to do back up than they were to undo originally. I'll just do these up enough that it's not going to fall open on itself. Because again, if I ever want to get back into it, I don't really want it done up super tight. And it's not like I'm taking it out in the rain where I actually need to worry about, you know, like moisture exposure and all that sort of stuff. And then I'll end the stream once we see if it works. Right, okay, so I'm not going to put batteries in it. See that where it says 6 volts? I'm just going to put a 9 volt on it. I know you'll probably go, you shouldn't do that, Liam, it's the wrong voltage. This old commie equipment doesn't care, it just works. So, let's see if we can get it working. So this might be a bit temperamental because I'm literally going to run it with croc clips. But let's have a go. So, positive, which is that one, isn't it? That's the positive. Negative. I have to hope it stays on the battery because it doesn't really want to do that. Negative. Okay, right. Now let's see if I can get these. If I just put on the chair, I'll probably be able to get it to hold in that way, as in. Actually, I can do it like that, can't I? Or will that not make a circuit? Let's just try it. That grips the side of the battery a bit better. This is where you almost want just a bit of raw wire to make this easier. It keeps wanting to fall out. Let me just hold it in with my hand there. There we go. Look. Yep, it works. So, as I said, I can't do a radiation test, but yeah. Pull apart an old Soviet Polish Geiger counter and put the wrong voltage of battery on and it still works. So there you go. Gives you an idea of how well this tech was built, because even I can't break it. Where, you know, the amount of tech that I've managed to break, which is really simple. You know. So yeah. This isn't Soviet, it's communist Poland. Oh, thank you very much again, Laser. That's very nice of you to donate, because obviously I've spent a lot on a new camcorder and Geigers recently, so that goes towards that. But yeah, it's communist Poland, so it's Warsaw Pact. It has that Soviet sort of Bakelite look to it, because the DP5 early series of Geiger counters look like this, same kind of Bakelite. All right, cheers, any name ideas. If you get one of these, I get a couple of quid from it, and I give a couple of quid to Bart, who did the design. I mean, like, the profit margins on them aren't as good as obviously when people donate, because then I get nearly all the donation. But yeah, getting stuff on Teespring does support me, so thank you. Yeah, it's an hour and 28 minutes. I think it's because at the point I was going to end the stream, it's when I was taking this apart, and I didn't want to just end it there. But yep, as you saw, this works even after I messed about with it. So yeah, how this would have been worn, just for the people who didn't know, you'd wear it around your neck like that. I mean, I think it's that way around, isn't it? Rather than hang on, it might be the straps actually meant to loop around like that. Oh, there goes my glasses. Yes, you wear it like that, I think. Then you'd look down and go, right, I'll set it to 0.5 Rontgen, flick the alarm on. You'd be walking around with it, and then if the alarm goes off, you know you're being irradiated from the X-rays penetrating the ionization chamber. Yeah, that's how these work. It needs 4 D-cell batteries to operate, so it's a lot easier running them off a 9 volt with croc clips. But yeah, pretty cool old bit of tech. So yeah, it literally detects X-rays and gamma rays going into it. It doesn't detect beta radiation, and it only has 3 sets: 0.5, which I assume is half a Rontgen, 5 and 30. So 5 Rontgen or 30 Rontgen. When it hits those measurements, the alarm sounds and it goes beep, 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 really loud. I wish you could get alarm clocks this loud. It's way louder than alarm clocks, the noise this makes with its little buzzer, which I think is that bit there. Also has a light that glows in there, but I found out from opening it is just a standard light. I guess it just tells you there's power going to it. It's not like a cool, you know, the more radiation, the brighter the light gets. But there you go. All right, thanks for watching the stream, and thank you, Laser, for the donations. I really appreciate it. You won't be on Twitch tonight. That's all right. I'll watch you tomorrow then, Mike. Right, see everybody, and have a good evening, everyone. There'll be a stream tomorrow. Don't know what time yet. Any name ideas? Right, bye.